This groovy little gizmo is the Mahindra XUV3XO, an Indian-made small SUV with a small price tag and some pretty interesting elements to it. I'm going to tell you what it's like to drive in this review, what it's like inside, the warranty stuff you need to know, and much, much more, including the best alternatives to it. So let's get to it, shall we? Thanks for watching and thanks for subscribing. Let's go. Get ready for some alphanumerics, people, because the Mahindra XUV3XO has some interestingly named variants. The entry-level one is called AX5L. You'll see the price for it on your screen now, and it comes pretty handsomely equipped for the money. You're getting things like LED lights, there's 16-inch alloy wheels, it's got keyless entry and push-button start. You get cloth seat trim in there, but you do get, just like this high-grade version, a pair of 10.25-inch screens, one for the driver info and one for your infotainment. There's Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and you're also getting a 360-degree surround view camera system and a blind spot camera too, and a fair bit more besides that in that entry-level version. And then there's this one here, which is the AX7L. Strange naming, I know, but it does have a few extra features that you might really appreciate. There's things like fake leather interior trim. You're getting the big glass sky roof, as it's called. Plus, you're getting 17-inch alloy wheels. There's a Harman Kardon sound system, auto dimming rear vision mirror. You get LED front fog lights, front parking sensors as well as the rear ones. It is very, very well equipped for the money, and I do think that it could be the right choice for plenty of people out there who are looking for a bargain small SUV. But speaking of those, I've got some great alternatives that you might want to consider too. Okay, so if you're thinking about a small SUV with a small price tag, you have to check out the Chery Tiggo 4 Pro. It starts at $24,000 drive away, and it comes with heaps of standard equipment for that money, and it also comes with a 7-year warranty. It's a nice little thing in most ways. It does have some annoyances, but honestly, it's pretty impressive for the cash, and there's a hybrid version that's just launching too. It starts at less than $30,000 drive away. Another option you might want to consider is the MG ZS. Now, that small SUV has seen a significant upgrade in the new generation. It's very, very impressive. It's comfortable, it's easy to drive, and there's a choice of petrol at a lower price point or hybrids in the $30,000 range. So it could be a great choice if you're looking for something that's very impressive. And there's now a conditional 10-year warranty. Previously it was just a standard 10-year warranty, but now you have to service with MG if you want the 10-year warranty. But there's also another option that you might want to consider, the Skoda Kamiq. You can get a Skoda Kamiq right now for less than $30,000 drive away for a European designed and built small SUV with plenty of great features. It's great to drive as well, and it's got a lovely little powertrain. So which one would you pick? Any of those or this? Have you seen the comments? This little car is actually very little. It's less than 4 meters long, the 3XO, and that means it's one of the smallest SUVs on the market. I'll put all the dimensions on your screen now so you can see for yourself just how tiny it is. And it looks the most tiny from that rear wheel backwards, I would say, because there's not much boot overhang here. Now let's have a look in the boot. First of all, have a look at all that badging because there's plenty there, but the boot space is pretty impressive. Now, no electric tailgate, but you do get a huge amount of space for a little SUV. I'll put the cargo capacity on your screen now so you can see for yourself, and there are some clever elements to this boot space too. So you've got an LED light over there, there's a shopping bag hook on that side, there's another bag hook on this side, and there's provisions for a cargo cover. This car doesn't have one, maybe it's an accessory, but underneath the floor there's also a spare wheel, which is a great thing to have. Lots of other little cars these days don't have a spare, they come instead with just a tire repair kit, but India understands roads can be rubbish. So that's good to see, and it's a pretty sizable boot space. But let's take a look inside and see what it's like. Okay, let's have a look at this interior, shall we? And look, it's not quite the same sort of pizzazz wow factor as some of the others in the cheap SUV segment straight off the bat, in my opinion, but it does have some pretty good features in here. So as standard, like I said, you're getting a 10.25-inch screen for your infotainment. It does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's also got a Harman Kardon sound system with multiple different sound settings in this high-grade version, and it seems to be a pretty quick screen when it comes to the load times and so forth as well. Now, I haven't done a deep dive on this screen. It seemed to work pretty well using Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but you do have to start to learn some of the menus and controls if you do want to delve a little deeper. It's not the most deep in terms of the intelligence required to get to know it, but it's also got some simple features like buttons to go to the radio, FM, AM, no digital, and a simple button to turn off the screen or on the music or whatever if you want to. You can go to Bluetooth if you just want to use Bluetooth rather than smartphone mirroring, and you've got other ways of going onto your radio there. And this little button right here is your camera button. So you can see you've got a surround view camera system. You can load an SD card in and basically have a onboard dash cam constantly recording if you want to, or you can just snap a picture using that little button right there if you're in traffic and maybe someone's cut you off or something like that, or they've done a bump and run. Well, you might be able to catch them. Now, okay, let's go back, get rid of the camera there. Now, there is also some drive modes to consider. You've got, that's right, zip, zap, and zoom as your drive modes. Zap is basically normal. Zoom is more for your sports driving experience. Don't know about that in this car, but you've also got zip, which is more of an eco-urban focused drive mode. So, look, this is a pretty decent screen with a decent usability factor to it. And part of the reason it's usable is because you've got controls down below for your climate settings. So you've also got them on screen if you want to use them on screen. But you do have here a pair of dials for dual zone climate, so you can adjust them separately if you want to. You've also got buttons for your fan speed adjustment and a recirc button there too. So look, I think that that is all good to see. It's maybe not as high tech looking as some of the others out there, but at least you've got tactile controls. Down there you'll see you've got a USB-C port and a USB-A and a wireless phone charger. It's a bit of an old school looking stick shifter, and you've got a pair of shallowish cup holders there, but an electric park brake, a decent sized center console bin, and you've also got a reasonable glove box, decent sized door pockets with big bottle holders. And the material finishes, I mean, they're not going to win any competitions for luxuriousness, but you're getting soft elbow pads, soft padding on the doors in this top spec version and on the dash, and also a leather lined steering wheel. Now the steering wheel does require a little bit of learning. It's mainly to do with these controls here, which control the settings on the screen there. So as you can see, look, there's multiple different controls on the screen, and there's
battery discharge warning. Start the engine immediately.
Okay, just calm down. There's multiple different menus on this screen, and some of the settings are done on the screen too. So there's also the driver assistance controls are done on this little screen. So I mean, it's not as simple as some of the other cars out there in terms of configuring some elements of the settings that you might want to turn on or off each time. And that's a bit strange because, as you can see down there, there's a panel for buttons, and I wish there was a button right there to turn off the lane keeping assist and another one right there to turn off the speed sign recognition tech, because I think that would make it a more livable car more generally. Now above you do have, well, sun visors, no vanity mirrors. You've got the big glass roof in this high spec version, which does add a nice level of ambience to the cabin. Yes, it's an opening roof, not just a glass roof, so that's nice to see. And you've got lights up here too with a nice dull LED finish to them. And this one, as I said, gets the auto dimming rear vision mirror because it's the high grade version. So look, it is a pretty interesting interior experience. There are some things missing and there are some things that could be better, but I do think that it is reasonable for the money that's being asked at least. Now, let's jump into the back seat and see what the space is like for this little tiny SUV. Okay, the driver's seat is set for my height. I'm 6 foot or 182 centimeters. And look, this is a tiny little car, but I've still got a finger's width of room in front of my knees. Good foot wiggle room for a little car like this. And headroom, well, it's a little tight. So if you have tall teenagers or you carry tall people with you a lot, it might be a little bit tight, especially because of this sky roof. The intrusion into the ceiling there is a bit annoying. But you do get some good features back here. So you've got overhead grab handles, there's little hooks for a coat, you've got lights in the back too, and some really good storage too. So you've got map pockets on both seat backs, there's big bottle holders in the doors. I like to see this, you've got a little storage tray down there, but you've also got directional air vents and a USB-C charge port. The floor is relatively flat, and that means you should be able to fit lots of people in the back if you need to. Well, 3, because there's 3 seats, but you do also get a flip down armrest with cup holders. There are ISOFIX points in the window seats and top tethers for these back row positions as well. So yes, it is a pretty practical interior experience here. Under the bonnet of the Mahindra XUV3XO is a 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine. It's a 1.2 litre with 82 kilowatts and 200 newton meters. Those are class competitive outputs, and it comes as standard with a 6-speed automatic transmission, and it's front wheel drive exclusively. So definitely aimed at city buyers. Now, one thing I really like about Mahindras is when you open the bonnet, the hazard lights come on automatically. That's really clever. All right, let's go see what it's like to drive, eh? Okay, so what's this little car like to drive? Well, in a lot of ways, it is very, very good. It doesn't drive as small as it is. This is a tiny, tiny vehicle, but it doesn't feel small on the road. Part of that comes down to the fact that it's got a long wheelbase, and it does feel pretty settled and pretty stable on a mix of different roads. So today I've driven from the Melbourne airport out through the back suburbs to the Yarra Valley, and look, it's not the best day for it, but this car has been a pretty enjoyable experience for the sort of drive we've been doing. The steering is pretty predictable at lower speeds in particular, and it's got a nice tight turning circle for those low speed moves. It's just at higher speed when you are sort of just on the straight ahead and you make little adjustments, it feels a bit sticky on center, if that makes any sense. You might notice it if you do a lot of highway commuting. It's just not as natural feeling when you try and make little adjustments at speed. The ride comfort is very, very good for this tiny little car. It is really small, remember. It does have a long wheelbase, which means that it does have a planted feel to it. It doesn't feel clumsy or, out of its league in terms of dealing with bad Australian roads, because there's a few that I've dealt with today, and I do also think that part of that comes down to the fact that it's got a 17-inch wheel with a sort of high-ish low-profile tyre, as opposed to some of the other vehicles out there which maybe go for a bigger wheel, smaller tyre, and, well, a little bit more of a crunchy ride experience. This one feels really quite enjoyable. And generally the drive experience is enjoyable. I really like this little 3-cylinder engine. I'm a big fan of 3-cylinder engines, and this one is a bit of a good one, I would say. Similar to a Volkswagen in some ways, and the Skoda as well. Similar sort of outputs to the Skoda Kamiq and Volkswagen T-Cross, for instance. And it does have a good amount of urgency when you put your foot down too, and nice zippiness from a standstill. So there's a 0 to 60k an hour claim for this car, which is actually, well, gonna win some traffic light Grand Prix, I would say. But as well as that, it does have a strong brake response. So it's got a nice progressive feel to the pedal. It's very easy to judge what kind of bitiness you're gonna get from the braking, which is really quite good. And if you can hear that really annoying blinker sound, you can change it if you don't like that. And also, let me just talk a little bit more about the safety systems in this car. So it does have a raft of active safety technology. Some of them maybe aren't as well finished as others. There is a speed sign recognition system and speed limit assist. In my experience today, the speed sign recognition system has been okay, but every time it sees a new speed sign, it tends to show you that you've entered that speed zone on the driver info screen in front of you, and that can be really annoying. Let me show you. That little speed sign icon down the bottom is one thing, but when you go through a new speed sign, as you'll see up here, it will show up the speed again. And there are shitloads of speed signs on roads like this in suburban areas, in rural areas. So that little icon showing up all the time can actually be rather disturbing and distracting. So I'm going to go through another 60 sign, because of course you need another 60 sign. Let's see what happens. And boom, there it is again. So if you are following instructions on the sat nav, which can show up on that display there, that can constantly get in the way of what you need to do next. So that could be a frustration. You can turn that speed sign tech off and it seemingly will stay off when you turn it off. But the lane keeping system, it's also a little bit too pushy for my liking, and I've turned it off each time I've got back in, which is a sequence you'll have to do every single time you get back in the car if you don't like it. But thankfully, no chimes, no bing bong, no bullshit when it comes to driver monitoring cameras and stuff like that. So it's pretty livable, I would say. Rightio, so what about fuel consumption? A little turbocharged SUV like this, well, it does have a pretty good official combined cycle fuel consumption number, which you'll see on your screen now. That's not too bad for this type of car. Not, setting any benchmarks, but it's okay. And if you're wondering what I've achieved in this drive experience, which might not necessarily be representative of what you'll do every day, certainly isn't of what I would do every day with a car like this, but on screen I'll show you what I saw displayed on the screen in front of me. So that's not too bad. Now, the other thing you need to keep in mind with the fuel stuff is that it does have the capability to run on regular 91 RON unleaded, but the recommendation is that you run it on 95. So that might add to your fuel bills. And it's got a pretty decent fuel tank capacity, so you should be able to get a reasonable amount of driving range from this car. There is no ANCAP rating for this car just yet, but it does have a whole host of standard safety technology and equipment in order to meet some of the needs of the ANCAP gods. So there is things like autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. There's lane keeping assistance and emergency lane keeping, which can be a little bit annoying. There's also a blind spot view camera system as well. Plus, you've got things like a reversing camera and a surround view camera, speed sign recognition, which actually can be pretty frustrating because it keeps showing up on the screen in front of the driver when, well, it doesn't really need to quite as much, but it does have no chiming annoyances, which is, sort of at least good in that regard. There's also 6 airbags fitted to this car. You don't get a front center airbag like many new cars, but you do get dual front side, and full length curtain coverage. In Australia, Mahindra is offering a 7-year, 150,000 kilometre warranty for the 3XO, which is definitely class competitive. There's also 7 years of roadside assistance included, and the brand has a capped price servicing plan available. Now, your first service is due at 10,000 Ks, and then it's every 15,000 Ks after that. You'll see the average service price on your screen now over the cap price plan, and I think it's pretty compelling. I guess the biggest consideration for this car, or any new car, will be the resale values, but seems pretty good in terms of the ownership promise. What do you think? The Mahindra XUV3XO is an impressively priced small SUV with surprising practicality and a pretty nice drive experience. There are some things that could be maybe a little bit better, but I do think that if you're looking for a cheap little crossover, it could be a very interesting choice. Have your say in the comments. Would you choose this car or something else? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you when I see you.